When you're thinking about minerals, it's not about how much, it's about how bioavailable.
Okay. I like that.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So here's the cool thing about beam minerals, and I'm not telling you this because I want to sell beam minerals, but it is a really cool thing. So we talked about these 3 stages of bioavailability. You start with digestion, breaking it down all the way down to its ionic components so it can be absorbed. Then you have absorption into the bloodstream, and then you have assimilation into the cell. And all 3 stages have to be completed for those minerals that you put in your mouth to have any effect.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Executive Health and Life. And as I always like to say, I'm here with another fascinating guest talking about something that's actually, it's truly fascinating and something that's going to blow your mind because it's all around us. And you were probably like me, probably until maybe a month or 2 ago, you're pretty much oblivious to it and it's invisible. But nevertheless, I want to go into an origin story with my guests first. So think about this. You're building a company or you're leading a team, you're dealing with shareholders, you're rising up the ranks of corporate, or you're just trying to be the best person that you can be. And it's easy to get off balance at times. It's easy to fall into a state where you're struggling physically, you're struggling mentally, you're struggling energetically, you're living on caffeine. My guest is someone today who fell into this profile when she was working in the corporate world. But like any great story, and we love stories, especially in America, we love a good comeback story. There's twists and turns, and sometimes you take a few steps back, but nevertheless, you will still end up at your destination. So my guest today, Caroline Allen, as a result of rebuilding herself and her health, she dedicated and became devoted to educating people about the benefits of plant-based mineral supplementation. But these are not just any minerals. These fulvic and humic minerals in their bioavailable ionic form. This is something that's going to be at the forefront very soon and a huge focal point in this health space very, very, very soon. So consider yourself ahead of the curve right now. Nevertheless, she is now the co-founder and CEO of Beam Minerals. Without further ado, Caroline, thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's really a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me on.
Yes, very much so. You know, I heard you on a different podcast. You were talking about these, and I went, you know, anytime I hear something different that can even help me improve even 1%, I go listen. But then I really thought about this, and this is like the foundation. There's many different biohacks that we can use, but if this mineral issue is not resolved, even optimized, a lot of that stuff is not going to be assimilated nearly as good as it could be. So we'll get into that. But before anything, I want to go back to your origin story a little bit. And when you're in your corporate career, did you have this one moment that you can recall where enough is enough? It's like a breaking point, or was it just an accumulation over time of not just feeling well?
You know, I always say it's sort of like one of those getting cooked like a frog stories. You know, the heat just keeps getting turned up and you go, oh, I can handle that. And then you turn it up a little more. And you go, oh, I can do that. But at some point there is a reckoning. Either you just start getting ill regularly, you know, colds, you know, your immune system gets shot. You know, I had flatlined adrenals for 2.5 years. So, you know, at that point, and I had sinus infections continually. And, you know, those really are hard to deal with when you have to think and be on your toes in a high level corporate position, you know. So at a certain point, I had to choose between my health and my career. And, you know, I had to choose my health. And so I had to take a break.
That's the smart decision. And a lot of times we oftentimes come to that point, don't we? Where it's usually the pursuit of success or whatever that looks to us, and then our health. And oftentimes those things are competing against each other.
Well, and one of the things I've done in my career is done a lot of leadership training and all sorts of things about change and I ended up in my very end of my career doing change management projects. And one of the things that we say in the world of change is people only change for 2 reasons. One, it gets so painful you have to change, or two, you have something so compelling that you're willing to go through whatever it is to get to the other side. And, you know, I did have both, because I really needed, I was so in such discomfort, and I was suffering. And I did have something compelling, which is I had kind of a true north of where I wanted to get to in terms of my own psyche and my energetics and my emotional state and physical state, all of those. Mm-hmm.
So as you're taking the steps to start up Beam Minerals, and you have this idea, and I'm sure you've talked to people at the very early stages of this, and what was kind of the reaction from that?
Well, you know, it's interesting because, you know, I had my own experience with the minerals. And one thing about me is, because when I'm really inspired by something, I can be very enrolling. and that's mainly because I'm willing to be vulnerable, tell people my own story, which is very connecting, and it's a true story, you know. So mm-hmm. The challenge, though, is that the conversation about minerals is very complex. And I have spent years, literally years, 8 years, learning to talk about minerals in a way that no matter who you are or where you're coming from, whether you're coming from a scientific background or you're coming from, you know, a health survivor background where you really don't know anything about the technical stuff behind it, you just want to feel better, I can kind of talk to anybody in that whole spectrum.
That's actually a great communication lesson. I remember when I first got my, when I first started to write for publications way back when, I had to get a writing coach because the way I was writing was so technical, mm-hmm. and it was like I was speaking to other health people, mm-hmm. but the people reading the publications was people who were not interested. They really just cared about the results and maybe give a little information here or there. So I think that's actually a very good reminder and communication lesson that we might geek out on the science, but mm-hmm. most people and the people we want to serve are not going to geek out on that. So it's good to speak this in layman's terms.
And also to speak it in a way that's relevant. You know, the thing for me that I always say is that, you know, I'm not really interested in being the smartest person in the room. What I'm really interested is that you, wherever you're coming from, can understand the value of what it is that I'm bringing. And because, again, I'm so on fire and excited by what minerals can do for humanity that I really just try to see the other person and reflect them and then give them some little bit of information that's relevant.
So let's jump into that about minerals, because minerals is probably, if we're thinking from there's so many quote unquote more exciting things, right? when we think about health and fitness, and
that's true.
But minerals are like the foundation. So, you know, to you, when somebody comes to you, like, why should I care so much about minerals?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting because I've spent so many the fun thing is that I really like to talk to people. I really like people. Mm-hmm. And so we've had a lot of opportunity at different shows. We just go and we talk to people, and you just try things, and then you see which are the things that people lean in, where they lean in, and which are the ones where they glaze over and walk away. And here are the things that I think take the whole conversation about minerals and make it interesting. So I'm going to say a few things, and you see how it works for you.
Okay.
So imagine your whole body, your entire body. In fact, imagine everything that you're looking at in your room. Now take the water out of it. It's all minerals. Your entire body, if you took all the water out of your body, it would be a little pile of minerals.
That makes me pause.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now think about your body and literally it gives me chills. Now think about your body and imagine that your entire body is made of cells. Every single structural element, every liquid, everything is made of cells. You have about 37 trillion cells in your body. And actually, they've gotten stronger microscopes now. They say you have maybe 150 trillion cells in your body. Now, Imagine that every single cell, inside those cells, there are these energy generating units called mitochondria. And those mitochondria generate all the energy in your body, every single piece of energy, like my hands moving, my eyes, my talking, you're looking at me, every piece of energy in your body, every unit of energy is generated by the mitochondria in your cells. And there are two things that fuel the mitochondria: minerals and amino acids. That's it. Now, your body makes a lot of amino acids, synthesizes those, biosynthesizes a lot of those. Some you have to take in, but many are actually made inside your body. But minerals, all the minerals that your body utilizes have to come in through the foods you eat or the supplementation you take. And the fact is that the foods that we're eating, because they've been produced in production farming environments, even in your backyard garden, when you grow a plant in soil, all of the structure of that plant is, again, minerals that are pulled from the soil. So what happens is the soil itself becomes depleted of minerals, and ultimately the food is less nutritious. It has less minerals in it. So all the food that you get from the grocery store, it has way less minerals than it did when I was a child. So what's happened is the experts say that modern humans have only 30 to 40% of the minerals that we need to function optimally.
Wow. So
imagine a light in your house and now dim it down to 40%. 40%, we're all like dimmed. We're dimmed to 40%. Think about that. And imagine that the simplicity of actually just providing your body full spectrum bioavailable mineral content and then dimming that light up to even 70%. And imagine how you could feel. And that's my life.
Wow.
Going from literally operating at 40%, struggling with flatlined adrenals, really bad inflammation in my gut, in my mouth, really deep pockets with, gingivitis and receding gums and bone loss in my teeth and constant recurring sinus infections and getting sick all the time with anything that showed up. And just by taking minerals, all of those things just resolving.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's huge. And so I'm thinking, like, during that process of when you are, attempting to heal yourself and take care of these different elements, you're doing different protocols. You're probably trying different supplements, different compounds and interventions, and it's not working, or maybe not working as much as they probably think it should, because I guess that whole foundational level is so depleted. Am I right there?
Exactly. And when you think about, most supplementation that we take, most medications, they all come in through most of them come in through the mouth and they go into the gut. So here my gut was so unhealthy. And so even just the absorption of all those, I mean, I'm not, just so you know, I'm actually not really good at taking supplementation. So I didn't actually take a lot of supplementation at the time. So all I did was take was minerals. I did take vitamin D, and I do hormone replacement, but that's it, And so I just added these minerals. That's all that I added. So, when you really think about the body, and not only, like, if you look outside your window and you see plants, I mean, the plant in the background in my image here. All plants are also cellular beings. They're systems of cells, as your body is. And Mother Nature actually provided these natural tools for mineral replenishment and full system detoxification. And it's just that these things aren't in our food anymore. So they're only in very, very small amounts. And so we're just not getting them.
And so when we think about these, what exactly is fulvic and humic?
Yeah. So let's talk about plant-based minerals. So, because I know a lot of people think about minerals. They're like, oh, well, I take, magnesium and I take my electrolyte. Most people don't even think of electrolytes as minerals. They're minerals also: magnesium, potassium, calcium, salts. These are all minerals. Okay. And what we've done is someone told us once that there were these minimum daily requirements of potassium or magnesium or whatever. And so we might be taking what I call large amounts of these minerals and throwing them in our system, but we don't notice any difference. In fact, most of us have a cupboard filled with mostly old pill bottles of stuff. And we're like, yeah, whatever. I'm not taking that anymore. I didn't notice any difference, or they're taking lots of magnesium and potassium and stuff as replacement because they're athletes and they still have cramping. So what I'm on a mission to do is completely disrupt the whole concept of minerals, how they work help people understand how they work in the body, and then help them understand actually how to replenish them in a successful way so that they can actually do their job. So I think actually what we should do is talk about that first. Okay. And then talk about humic and fulvic and get a feeling for why these might be better than just taking pills or drinks or powders.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, so I think most people have no concept of minerals and how they work in the body. So first, we just learned that minerals are the foundation for all the energy generation in your body, and most of us only have like 40%. Okay, but let's think about minerals and how they actually get into the body. Since they all have to come in, how do they come in? And this is the cool thing that I learned. It was huge. Like, it blew my mind when I learned this. I was like, people need to know about this. So the thing about minerals is they have to not only get into your gut, they have to get into your bloodstream, and then they have to get inside the cells so that they can be utilized both by those mitochondria that are inside your cells. And most minerals that we take in pill, powder, flavored drink form, what are they made of? Rocks, shells, and bone. How well does your digestive tract digest those things? Like, not very well, even though they're ground up. Because what people think, well, I understand about digestion, but do you know that things in your digestive tract have to be broken down all the way down to their ionic chemical components to be absorbed into your bloodstream? That's extremely small. When you take a pill of magnesium, you maybe, if you're lucky, digest 10 to 12% of it. 10 to 12%. Then it all depends on the health of your lining of your digestive tract. And mine was not very healthy, right? So my digestive system didn't work very well. Now you put bones and rocks and shells in there, those aren't going to digest very well. And then they don't absorb very well either into the bloodstream. But let's say you absorb maybe 10% into your bloodstream. Now you have to get it into your cells. And the truth is that most of us don't have very effective or efficient assimilation. It's called assimilation engines, bringing the minerals into the cells. So this is the problem, is that even if you're taking lots of minerals, they're not getting digested, they're not getting absorbed, and they're not getting assimilated into your cells where they can actually make a difference. So this, like, when I realized that, I was like, wow. So I'm really mineral deficient, but how do most people get minerals from these methods that don't work? Okay. Right. And so you take 320 milligrams, which is actually a huge amount of magnesium, and you only end up actually assimilating maybe 5% of it if you're pretty healthy. Okay. So the plant-based minerals, they're just like a completely different thing. They're actually Mother Nature's solution. Yeah, there's so much there. You see how complex it gets pretty quick.
Yeah, and the thing is, for me, like initially, I used to cramp a lot, and I, especially when I played basketball, I cramped a lot midsection wise. And then when I started to do more endurance activities, cramp a lot, and so I had to really jack up like my magnesium intake in terms of sprays and a whole host of other things to work. And I guess you kind of make sense now that if you think about it, if you're jacking your tolerance up to maybe 800 to 1,000, or maybe even a little more on certain days, maybe I'm getting a fraction of that. And that's finally helping alleviate. But think about how much it's taking to do that. Exactly.
And so, we actually have a thing. We have a cramp relief kit. We basically say, if you utilize this, your cramping will go away. You won't need to be like using so much magnesium. The thing that you should know actually as an endurance athlete, because I work with people who train endurance athletes. And one of the things that they find with aging endurance athletes is they start ending up with osteoporosis. Why is that? Because they've taken so much magnesium. They've created such an imbalance in their system with so much magnesium that it actually begins to pull the calcium out of their bones over time. So using huge amounts of magnesium over a long period of time is not healthy. It's not good for your body. So the reason that you have to take so much is because of this, we call it bioavailability, right? You're having to utilize so much because your system is utilizing a lot of magnesium. Although one thing that you might not be aware of is that cramping can also be from a phosphorus depletion. It also can be from the imbalance between calcium and magnesium. Now, for you, the magnesium is working. I talk to people all the time. They take magnesium regularly, even large amounts, and they still have cramping. Because it might not be that they need more magnesium. It might be about the balance between the magnesium and calcium, or it might be phosphorus or some other micronutrients. So cramping is a really, one of the things that I really like to say to people is all cramping in the body, all cramping, whether it's leg cramps, whether it's heart attack, whether it's menstrual cramps, whether it's this crick in my neck that I have. That's actually from my neck injury, but it's mineral deficiency. It's mineral deficiency. So if you can effectively replenish minerals, you can either radically reduce or completely eradicate cramping in your body.
Yeah, and this also kind of thinks about trace minerals. And I think those are, I don't want to say impossible to get, but pretty hard to get.
Well, so that's what Fulvic and Humic are. That's what plant-based minerals are. They're trace minerals. So now let's go back to that thing about realizing that your whole body is made of cells, right? Now imagine, and they call them macro minerals. The macro minerals are the calcium, magnesium, the ones that you need a lot of. So the cool thing is that plant-based minerals are actually pre-formulated so that there's a lot of magnesium and calcium, the macro minerals, because they are actually formulated exactly the way your body is formulated in terms of the amount of minerals in your body, the amount of minerals that you need and utilize. So rather than thinking, I mean, as biohackers, we tend to think we can biohack, well, we're going to add a little of this, add a little of that. But your body and the replenishment system for minerals, it's not like a car. You can't say, oh, I need more magnesium, throw in a whole bunch of magnesium, I need a whole bunch of potassium. It doesn't actually work like that at all, at all. So if you can use instead these natural substances that are already pre-formulated in the quantities that your body needs and in extremely bioavailable format, you can really not just hack your system, but you can provide your body all the foundation, this foundation level support that it needs to do all the other functions, grow hair, make your skin healthy, make your brain fog clear, remove the cramping, remove the inflammation in your gut, start to gain and maintain homeostasis.
And you think about how many times you hear people talk about, I have to work on my skin health, or especially as they're, taking more trips around the sun, getting more chronologically older, they're always worried about skin health. And so the first thing that people are going to grab is probably, the average person is probably going to look at collagen peptides or something. Or some, and still not knowing, like you said, though, these are all cells and the raw materials are still not there.
Well, so peptides are actually, there are chains of amino acids. So that's one half of the thing. And then the minerals are the other half. So these two are the best thing you can do for your skin health. And clearly skin health is a really good sign of the health of a body inside.
So as we're talking about the soil, and there's a big thing, most people have heard of it right now, and that's glyphosates.
Yes.
And some of the things that they can do is, gut issues, chelates some of the minerals that we have, which can, I assume, then further deplete us. Messing with different types of enzymes, depleting, tanking our mitochondria. I don't know about how much, but I know it's a pretty decent amount. I don't know if there's any studies on that particular, but then, and then also affecting the blood-brain barrier. Those are a couple things, right, to kind of set this up.
And also pineal gland. So it's all about serotonin and melatonin, so sleep and mood.
So I'm curious how here, these plant supplementations here, how do they offset glyphosate some?
Yeah. Well, so actually now let's get into Humic and Fulvic. So I like to help people understand where they come from, like what are they? So imagine an entire rainforest back when the dinosaurs lived. And imagine that whole entire rainforest slowly decomposing over millennia into this incredibly mineral-rich crystalline substance. We also have a substance in the Himalayas called shilajit. Some people say shilajit, but I've heard it's supposed to be say shilajit. I can't say it quite right.
Really? I've been messing that up myself then. I think I said shilajit or something. I even took it right.
Anyway, everybody, maybe someday we'll get the right pronunciation, but it's a more of a pasty substance. It is the same thing, Humic and Fulvic. And so in our case, with our products, it's this crystalline substance. And there's some beautiful things about it. One is it carries all the minerals that your body needs in that balanced formulation. It's also never had contact with modern pollutants. It's not manufactured. It's completely created in a natural process of the decomposition of plants. And in that process of these plants decomposing, these two substances are created, Humic and Fulvic, and they have amazing properties. I say that they are Mother Nature's technology for mineral replenishment in all cellular systems on Earth, and full system detoxification for all cellular systems as well. So here's how they work. And the reason I'm going to give you the overview first is we'll talk about how they work specific to glyphosate.
Okay.
Next. So I like to talk about the Fulvic first. The Fulvic is the Humic molecule actually includes Fulvic. We extract Fulvic from the Humic for several reasons we could get into or not. But the fulvic molecule is very, very small. It's much smaller than a cell. And it's what is called a flavonoid. We've all heard of that term, but what really is a flavonoid? Flavonoid is an intercellular transporter. And the fulvic molecule is a specific type of fulvic molecule, of flavonoid that is different than any other one on Earth. So what it does, it has two cool things. Imagine a person outside your room and they have a backpack on their back and they fill it full of goodies and they walk into your room and they dump it out and you get all the goodies and then they pack into it all the waste in your trash can or whatever and they carry that out of your room. That's what the fulvic does. It carries 60 times its weight of nutrients into the cell, and then it does what no other molecule on Earth does that they know of. It changes its polarity, and it does that. All those things fall off inside the cell, available to the mitochondria for energy generation. Then it gathers all the bio waste, the toxin, the environmental toxins, free radicals, and it carries those heavy metals, and it carries those out of the cell. And then it does what no other, again, it does the same thing again, changes its polarity, and those things drop off in the bloodstream. So it's this incredibly powerful intercellular transporter. And because there's something about the fulvic molecule, most molecules, when they go across the cell wall barrier, they require a certain receptor. And the fulvic requires nothing. Any channel that opens in your cell wall, the fulvic goes straight through. So this truly is a technology that's designed, your body is evolved as a being from the earth to utilize these. Isn't that cool?
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. Exactly. See, this is what I said. Minerals are so exciting. So it's mind-blowing. Imagine that there's a technology that's been designed and your body is evolved to utilize it. And all you have to do is put it in your body. And now the energy generation ability of your body increases substantially. Substantially. And your mitochondrial function increases because now you've got so much more nutrition. Everything you put in your mouth, whether it's water or food, vitamins, all your other, if you're a biohacker and you have a big stack of supplements, all that stuff becomes more bioavailable. And you're constantly doing intercellular detoxification. Most people who deal with the world of detox know it's one thing to get things out of the bloodstream. Mm-hmm. It's another thing to get things out of your what's stored in your tissues, which is inside the cells.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So this helps the intercellular detoxification.
You know, before you go to the next one, yeah. I love the point where you talked about the bioavailability, because a lot of times you take all these supplements. I'm a pill popper myself, and there's in the back of your head, you're like, is this actually doing what it's supposed to be doing? Some of these you can measure now, right? But a lot of these you maybe cannot exactly measure, right? So you're going off oftentimes by feel, but it's also, you know, this is like the best insurance policy that you can have, in that this is like you said, it's, can you say guarantee pretty much, you know, almost that.
It's absolutely, this is like fundamental, the way organisms work on Earth.
Yeah. And so like anything I love the idea, and I love that notion now that anything you take, it's going to do what it's supposed to do now, because you have the right raw materials there now.
I mean, to the point where actually, even if I drink alcohol, I actually went to visit my family recently and everyone was having drinks. And I was like, oh, I'll have a drink. I hardly drink alcohol ever. I was like, I'll have a drink, you know, a gin and tonic, you know. Mm-hmm. I drink this much of that gin and tonic, like 1 inch. And alcohol doesn't do well with me, but I was immediately high. And that's because I have so much fulvic in my system that everything I put in my system is very quickly bioavailable.
I'm going to have to watch out for that. I'm already a lightweight. I'm much like you. Alcohol doesn't really do it for me really anymore. But usually for me in the past, it was 2 to 3. And that's, if I do more than 2 to 3, then I'm gone. So maybe one.
So,
that's good.
It'll be really interesting for you to have that experience.
Yeah, I haven't had a drink of alcohol probably in over a year or so. But so I am going to keep that in mind next time I have wine. And
right, exactly.
I'm very curious to see that. Now, I will admit though, now that you're talking about this assimilation and everything, is that I eat a lot of food, and I haven't had any like bloating or anything, even when I eat a substantial amount of food. So now that so I have some of the minerals in my drink right now that I'm drinking, and I've been using it for maybe a couple weeks now, and I just kind of randomly thought about that like I haven't had any like type of bloating or discomfort with my food or not. And yeah, so that's an interesting thing. Now that we're talking and everything, and my mind's actually thinking about something.
Well, and that's where we get into the remediation of the glyphosate, because glyphosate is so. Let's talk about the humic first, and then we can go into glyphosate. It's important to have the foundation of these two components, the fulvic. So the fulvic being the intercellular transporter. So it increases energy generation in the body because it gets more nutrients into your cells, and also detoxes from inside the cells. So now you have the guy with the backpack filled with your trash that he dumped out, outside of the cell into your bloodstream, right? And now you want to get that out of your body. And guess what? Mother Nature provided the perfect tool. This molecule called humic. And humic is a large molecule, much larger than a cell. It hangs out in your bloodstream. And because of the way it works with humic, it stays in solution quite well. It doesn't just fall out of solution and leave the body until it reaches a certain point. So it stays in solution, has incredible amount of surface area on the outside. And it's extremely sticky because it's one of the strongest electrolyte molecules known to man. And it chelates. It's incredibly effective at chelating heavy metals. It gathers free radicals. So I've seen charts that show it's thousands of times more effective as an antioxidant than any superfood mix or anything you could use. Incredibly effective. That's the other reason it's helping your gut, is removing all the free radicals. So not all, of course, but more. It also just removes bio waste. It just constantly sits in your system. It gathers all the detritus from autophagy processes and all of that kind of thing. And then it also does something really cool. It adsorbs glyphosate. So, and what that means is it actually, the glyphosate molecule clings to it, and then it builds a film around the glyphosate molecule. And once it's got that film around it, it immediately starts breaking down the molecule so that the molecule can no longer have its negative effects while it's in your system. So, because as soon as that molecule is changed, it no longer can have its effects on the pineal, on the gland, on the CP450 enzymes, which are associated with gluten intolerance and all sorts of gut dysbiosis, et cetera. So, ultimately, that molecule gets so heavy at a molecular weight that it falls out of solution and it leaves your body through all the elimination channels. And that's the other thing, is that most detoxification processes require certain elimination channels to be open. And the beautiful thing about the humic is it's designed to use every single elimination channel in your body. That means rubbing your hands together, sweating, your tears, your hair, your urine and feces, of course, and you're constantly, just every time I'm doing this, I'm like literally detoxifying.
Huh. I didn't even think about that. Like when you think about elimination and detoxification, I don't really think about rubbing hands or anything like that. Or you think about sweating, feces, and urine and all that, of course, but like, hair and That's interesting. Right. Yeah. So you're constantly detoxifying.
So to have this incredible tool that is a gentle, so you don't have to have any big detoxification events, you can just be constant. I call it Mother Nature's janitor.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally constantly working. In fact, there's a great story. There was a man who was charged by NASA to keep astronauts in space because astronauts get a lot of radiation, which is ultimately heavy metals, and they're worried about them living in space for a long time because they could be prone to cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what he found was Humic, was keep them infused with Humic. Isn't that cool? Actually, it was a mix of copper and Humic, but yeah, I have a whole report about it if you're interested. It's called the Frost Report. It's really
I would love to read it.
Yeah, he ended up creating a product that's no longer available that actually removed tumors, cancer tumors, literally from the body by putting a salve on the outside. It's a crazy, crazy story, but actually amazing. But so this is the thing, that Humic is actually well known as a remover of heavy metals from toxic waste dumps, from wetlands, from Chernobyl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. That is insane. And once again, mind blowing that the free radical thing is a very, and I imagine that's reducing oxidative species as well, right?
Yes.
In there as well. So, for people who like to exercise a lot, such as myself, and this is very good for that, right? Because you're creating a lot of damage, and this is
a lot of oxidative stress, and you're tearing muscles apart and rebuilding them constantly.
The only limiting factor is really your recovery, so you can go do it again. And so, I mean, I guess that's probably another thing. Now that I think about it, now my brain's firing a little bit thinking about this and we're talking about it, I don't really get sore or feel anything, so I think that's the best thing, right? I think that, as we talked about before we even hit record, a lot of times, you're really doing something right when you just don't feel it. You just happen to notice yourself doing more than usual, feeling great. And a lot of old things that you thought about or may come up sometimes are non-existent.
Mm-hmm. I do talk a lot with athletes because athletes are really a great example because what do they deal with? They deal with hydration, never feeling really hydrated. And they also deal with replenishment, never feeling like, particularly endurance athletes, struggling to feel replenished, especially when they're in their training cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And also dealing with a lot of muscle soreness and all of that, potentially cramping, et cetera. So, and it's really exciting. Recently, I've been working with a cyclist who had really bad, it's called fasciculation. It's like, they call it the creepy crawlies. And he's a cyclist. A lot of cyclists get this. And it's like feeling like you have worms under your skin. Your muscles are actually involuntarily moving, micro movements.
Oh.
It's really weird. And then also night cramping. So mm-hmm. We had gotten him on our minerals and he'd been taking them for probably 6 months, no cramping, no fasciculations. Then he was training for a big event and he's like, oh, I should take some extra magnesium. He took some magnesium citrate, glycinate, I think first. And immediately he got horrible leg cramps that night. Then he's like, well, maybe it was the glycinate. Maybe I should take this magnesium citrate. Mm-hmm. And he took that. He got even worse cramps and he had fasciculations, this creepy crawly thing for like 3 hours. He sent us a video of it. So why is that? So first of all, and I am totally on a mission to get people to stop taking single mineral supplements like magnesium, like that magnesium you're taking. You should once you get fully established with the minerals, you should go get a test. If you're really depleted in magnesium, okay, well then maybe you do need to bring that depletion up to some form of level. It would level out over time, over months, by just taking the plant-based minerals. But if you really do have a deep depletion, you're experiencing some really big symptom from it, you might want to take something to bring that up. And I have some ideas about what you could use for that, but you should test for that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what happened to this guy is his body was in great homeostasis, great balance. And then he added all this magnesium and completely threw his gut into imbalance. And not only that, he used magnesium citrate, which one thing that magnesium citrate does is it absorbs the liquid, the water out of your gut. So it put him into deep dehydration, which caused the really bad cramping. So the idea with minerals is, some scientists along the way set up these minimum daily requirements, but these are ludicrous. These are absolutely ludicrous.
That was going to be one of my questions, actually, is, I noticed that a lot of times I think I'm probably like this too. You're trained to, when you look at anything you're taking, you're looking at the amount that you're taking everything.
Yes, exactly.
And one thing I noticed with these is that there's no amount on there.
I know. So we get questions every single day, and people are like, well, send me the ingredients because I want to know how much magnesium and calcium and potassium, because somebody told me I need to get this many every day. Right. Mm-hmm. We are constantly in a reframe of that conversation. We have a whole email that we send them to help them understand when you're thinking about minerals, it's not about how much, it's about how bioavailable.
Okay. I like that.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So here's the cool thing about beam minerals. And I'm not telling you this because I want to sell beam minerals, mm-hmm. but it is a really cool thing. So we talked about these 3 stages of bioavailability. You start with digestion, breaking it down all the way down to its ionic components so it can be absorbed. Then you have absorption into the bloodstream, and then you have assimilation into the cell. And all 3 stages have to be completed for those minerals that you put in your mouth to have any effect. There's a few that actually do have an effect in the bloodstream, like iron as an example, but most have to get into your cells. Okay. So the beautiful thing about beam minerals is when you drink our liquid minerals, they require 0 digestion. They're 100% ready for absorption. So when you drink it, by the time it hits your stomach, your body's already absorbed some portion of it and is already assimilating and utilizing some of the mineral content. So when you take the electrolytes, for example, it's the Fulvic supplement. By the time it hits your stomach, your body's already started replenishing the electrolytes in your body. So I say, wouldn't it be better when you go, if you're rather than taking some powdered, electrolyte drink that many people are using these powdered electrolyte drinks, they put it in their water and it looks like it dissolves, but I'm telling you, your body still has to digest that. First of all, it has a flavor. Anything with a flavor has to be digested. Anything with a flavor. And that takes about 20 minutes. So, and in that 20 minutes, most of it just gets washed through and you pee it out. Only 10 to 12% gets maybe digested. Okay. So, but think about the 100% of the electrolytes is 100% available, ready for absorption. Isn't that cool? It's amazing to me.
That's much more efficient.
Yeah, and then once it gets absorbed, it also has that so the Fulvic is the transportation tool for those minerals into the cells. So what we find with people is, we were working recently a big bike race, and we were at the aid station, and I'll have another product I'm going to tell you about that's really cool, but we would give the electrolyte shots to people, and they'd be like standing there, getting their energy bar or whatever. That's going to take like 35 minutes to even begin to feel any energy from it. And they'd drink it and they'd be like, is it possible I could feel that already? And we're like, yep. Yep.
The energy bars, never again. No, yeah. The energy bars and the chews, no. I did that once, never again.
Ruins your gut. It makes you feel like crap, don't they?
Oh my God, it tore my gut apart.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So we also have an amazing product. It's called Instalates, and it's actually the fulvic minerals in a spray format. So for athletes, it's incredibly useful. It has many, many different uses, but so imagine taking minerals and being able to spray them exactly where you need them. So if you have a cramp in your leg, you spray the fulvic and it absorbs directly through the skin into the muscle in 3 seconds.
So this is so someone's using this, is very targeted. So in the calf, spray the calf, right?
Exactly. In the neck, spray the neck. If you go work out, we have people who go, I give it to people, say, go to the gym, spray one side of your body and not the other, and then watch how many more reps you can get on the side that you sprayed. And then also feel, yeah, and then spray it, and then you'll feel like do a really hard workout, spray one side and not the other, spray before. You can even spray during if you want. We've had people do that, and spray after, and then feel the difference in the soreness.
Okay.
Of the DOMS, the delayed onset muscle soreness. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to do that.
Okay.
I have some of the sprays here.
Yeah, it's fun.
So it's very interesting. You know, we talked about testing. You mentioned testing earlier, and do you have a preference? Because I know there's micronutrient testings out there, and then I'm not as familiar. I just came across, you know, through researching you a little bit. You mentioned a Oligoscan.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me tell you a little about testing. So a lot of people swear by hair analysis, and I've done a huge amount of study about testing for lots of reasons. One, because I wanted to vet this one tool that we use called Oligoscan. But the thing about any kind of excretion model testing, which is hair analysis, is your body excreting hair. And your nails and your urine and feces. These are also, if you're doing any kind of mineral testing using those, the problem with it is that your body stores heavy metals. And if you're wanting to find out what your heavy metal levels are, if your body doesn't excrete well, and there are lots of, and sometimes they'll give you actually substances to make you excrete, which also can show something that's not really true. So what we say is the Oligoscan is a technology. It's very stable. It's an old technology. It's been around a long time, and it's the same technology they use in all materials sciences to determine what is a metal made of, what is like any material that you have around you. You could, you know, this glass, we could find out what is this glass exactly made of. And it uses a very, very bright light, and it's a non-invasive test. It shines a light into 4 spots on your palm, and it returns very accurate, and we've tested this, very accurate data on all of your heavy metal levels, all of your beneficial minerals, your micronutrients, all of your electrolyte levels, all of your vitamin level, not all, but many vitamin levels, as well as overall oxidative stress, which is related to the free radicals in your system. It does some other things as well, but so imagine not only being able to tell what's ambient in your system, like what you ate a few days ago or yesterday or today, but actually what's your system, what's been brought into the cells. So what's available for your mitochondria. Okay. And also stored in terms of environmental toxins or heavy metals. So, and it gives you that reading like really immediately.
I like that. I like that a lot because I don't normally, I have access to like a lot of different tests to recommend and advise and you know, tell people, but I've never really been the hair tissue thing. I've never really recommended that too much. And I assume not like the heavy metals test as well, and as well. So I've always been
a lot of people who swear by it.
Yeah.
By the way, we're going to be at the biohacking conference next week in Orlando, Florida, and we are offering that test at our booth, just in case there might be anybody. I don't know if you're going to drop this out before that, but we can also provide a link on your page for this, so people could find out if there's a practitioner near them.
Okay. Yeah. I'll probably just get the link. This won't be out before then, but we'll get a link to have that, because I think that will be that'll be very beneficial in terms of, because if I know anything, if you talk to the average person in their supplementation, they're going to be taking, if anything, some type of vitamin, some type of mineral, maybe not the NMN and all that kind of stuff, but they'll take some kind of minerals, some zinc.
Zinc.
Zinc. I've even looked into that kind of stuff and used it at times as well.
And one of the things, like as an example, when we've done a lot of oligoscans at different shows, and since the pandemic, a lot of people ended up with high zinc, like toxic levels of zinc, because people were taking a lot of zinc during the pandemic because people said, taking zinc is good for your immune system, et cetera. And by the way, zinc also doesn't do anything for you unless it's inside your cell, unless it gets inside your cells. So
that's what I was explaining to people also. And then also, to my understanding, a lot of times is the copper, a lot of times with vitamins and minerals, they usually have a pair.
Yes.
Yes. So zinc needed like copper in a ratio. So I always took that. And then I tried to, let's see if this is right as well. I had something to help zinc get inside the cell as well.
Oh, what was it?
I use a quercetin.
Quercetin. Yeah, quercetin is a flavonoid as well. Yes. Yeah. So I had those trio because I had someone, I remember this during that time, and they're like, I'm going like 50 milligrams on zinc. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I was like, what else are you doing? He's like, no, I'm just taking zinc. I heard zinc. So I was like, look up copper. And a lot of these things are base. Like you said earlier, if you take too much magnesium without the calcium, that's going to create an imbalance. Same thing with vitamin D and K. These things come in pairs. They come in pairs. I often say that this is another thing people have no awareness of, because we just, you go down the aisle at the wherever you buy your supplements, and there's all these single bottles of minerals. How would you know? Yeah. Minerals work more like hormones, like blood sugar. Everything in your body works in a balance. So
I always tell them to think of this as like a symphony.
I love that.
There's not just one instrument that's playing. A lot of times there's multiples, and sometimes one plays, the other doesn't play, but there's a rhythm and flow to the whole thing.
I love that so much. And so I was thinking about, what is Humic? I think about, have you ever heard of mycelium? So mycelium they're actually a fungi that lives underneath the earth and the soil. And they're the channel for all nutrient delivery to the roots of every plant that grows in the soil. So imagine it's like a channel, and through that channel, all the nutrients are delivered. And guess what they're delivering? Humic and fulvic.
Huh.
So it's like here you have this symphony that's happening, this incredible symphony, and all you need are these simple tools. It's so easy to support your body,
and it's going to save money. Now that I'm thinking about this, if for me, I think about, okay, if I have a bunch of these single ones, I can get rid of these single ones and have something to take.
So many pills that don't work.
Yeah, or for me, I'll probably just find something else that's to try or something, right? But it'll probably still be less. But how
many pills do you take per day?
Not much. I talked to some people this week who take much more than me, so I'm fairly young still. So I take about maybe 10 to 20, 25. So
That's a lot of pills.
Well, look, I know some who take 70.
I
100.
know. So, and the thing that I really also want to tell people is, when you're taking that many pills, you really need to look at what kind of excipients and fillers are in those things.
Yeah.
Because think of all that stuff, just even the caps, what are the caps made of? Because, that just, anyway.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense. And then also consider the biochemistry of it all. And like, we're talking about symphonies now and everything, to really know that these things do they go along with each other?
Yeah.
And,
exactly.
and is it going to create good music? And so, and there's a rhyme or reason for why certain things, that I would take. And it's not every day. Some things are off and on. Some things I'm just trying and stuff like that. But, I like this. And I like this whole idea because even for people, kind of like yourself, you're not a pill popper. And I think of people like my family and just even like my mom, who doesn't really like to do a lot of this stuff, right? But having something like this, even for the average individual, this is creating a solid foundation, helping your body to go into homeostasis. Even if you don't do anything else, you're taking care of this thing for homeostasis. Because not everyone's going to be a biohacker, or not everyone's going to want to have different schedules and timings for all this stuff.
Exactly, which is why I really want to get out and talk to, the moms, because think about the little kids,
That's what I was going to next. Yeah.
Yeah. Little kids are getting so many glyphosates in their food. And kids now come off the soccer field with cramping muscles because they're drinking RO water, reverse osmosis filtered water or distilled water, bottled water, right? It has no minerals. And their foods are depleted of minerals, and the glyphosates are further depleting their system of minerals and causing other gut dysbiosis issues. So if you can get your kids to drink these liquids, and the beautiful thing is they taste like water, so the kids don't, go, ooh, I don't want to drink that, or where's my grape flavoring? You can put it in their water bottle and you're done.
And this goes in your tea also. I had it in tea, so it goes in tea. Sometimes I just drink it in water. It's fine. There's really no taste, exactly. And that's the whole point, right? Because you're skipping a step of the digestion part, right?
Exactly.
So
we used to say it's tasteless, and then we were like, well, wait a minute, it's not tasteless. Yeah. I mean, meaning tasteless, like like I have taste.
So one of the last things I want to do is kind of give people an idea, if they're interested in this, kind of how to go about starting this, because there's a handful of products now on the website and everything, and so someone's just being introduced to this. How do you recommend? What's a good foundational starting point?
We have a product called our Advanced Set. It includes two products. One is the Fulvic supplement that's called Electrolyze, and the other is the Humic supplement that's called MicroBoost. And we call them the Advanced Set because they provide not only all of the energy generation fulvic complex aspect, but they also provide that constant, Mother Nature's janitor, full system constant detoxification. So we provide on the website, of course, there's lots of usage information about how to utilize them. But just taking a half an ounce of each of those per day is fantastic for really anybody up to, say, 150 pounds. If you're a real athlete, you might want to take more electrolytes. If you're dealing with some real issues health-wise with your gut, you might want to work up to taking more of the MicroBoost for a period of time. But as a foundational amount, that's all you need.
Yeah, and I'm going to experiment with that because I've been pretty conservative with my dosages so far, and I'm 200 pounds. So
well, let me tell you about how you can utilize these. So the reason that we split them up, the Humic from the Fulvic, and just MicroBoost does have some Fulvic in it. It's actually in there because it keeps the Humic in suspension, completely ionized. So, but now that you have Fulvic as the electrolyze and Humic as your MicroBoost, you can use, the MicroBoost as your Humic supplement, you can use them in a couple different ways. Let's say you're going out for a run or you're going to the gym, you take an extra half a cap of that, or half an ounce, a capful is about an ounce. So that's why we say half a cap in your water. And just if you do any other electrolyte replenishment, forget that other stuff. Doesn't work. Just use electrolytes as your electrolyte replenishment. Okay. So that's how you can use electrolytes. Then if you want to, you can use microboost in several different ways. One, let's say you feel a cold coming on, take an extra half shot of microboost before you go to bed. Viruses do not like to live in the same realm with humic. It's well documented that viruses don't survive well when humic is around. Okay. So, so that the other way you can use it is, let's say you're gluten-free and you go to a restaurant, you get glutenized and you feel that foggy, like, logy feel, just take an extra shot of microboost. It will clear it out. Or let's say you you actually get food poisoning. Fantastic. Or just something that's creating diarrhea or something. It's fantastic for clearing out toxins from the gut. Or even if you drank alcohol. If, I have a friend who, her husband is German, he loves to drink alcohol, and she could never drink because she didn't sleep. And she tried the microboost, slept through the night. She's like, "Oh, you've changed my life. Now I can drink with my husband." I wasn't sure that was a good thing, but
this could be a great travel companion as well, because a lot of times when we travel to different places, especially different countries, there's different bacteria and that we're coming into contact with. Even if you're eating some of the same foods, it's still different because it's a different region. And you hear a lot of times about people maybe taking a probiotic with them or something like that to try to help themselves get acclimated to that new region.
Well, and I do want to mention, we do have capsules, okay? And they are the powdered form of it's like taking microboost. It's actually like taking the advanced set, really, and in a powdered form. And for travel, just because it's really hard to travel with these big liquid bottles, especially if you're going for an extended period, the capsules are not as bioavailable, but they are highly concentrated. And we actually use them with athletes as well, who are real endurance athletes. They take 1 capsule a day plus the liquid, because the capsule is sort of like a time release. It's slowly dissolving and becoming bioavailable, whereas the liquid's immediately bioavailable. So for real performance athletes, it's a great tool, and for travel.
Okay, I like that. I'm going to have to keep that in top of my head. I think this is a great starting point. I'm sure down the road there's more that's going to come out on this. And I'm probably going to end up seeing you everywhere, because this is still not as known as it should be. And so I can't wait for all the new discoveries around this. And so we'll definitely have to have a part 2. I really enjoyed this conversation. Where can listeners keep up with you at?
Well, they can look for, our website, beamminerals.com. I'm actually also starting a website called The Mineral Geek, which if they're wanting to learn more, I'm going to start doing some educational stuff. I'm really, truly on a mission to bring this information out. But beamminerals.com is a great place to start.
I like that name.
And did we create a discount code for you?
I'm glad you remember. Yes. So there's a discount code for those out there, and just use the discount code Julian, and I believe it's 20% off, right?
Yep.
Yep. It's 20% off. Use the discount code Julian. I will have a link there, and I need to make a resource page with a bunch of different tools and stuff I use. I'm very behind and slacking on that, so I'm going to have that up. But this will be on the show notes page with the discount code Julian. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You have a believer in me. You have a lifelong customer in me. It's personally helped me. So this is why I feel, very no problem at all to mention this and everything, because I like to try everything first before I recommend it, so nobody comes back at me and says anything. So this is I think it's truly groundbreaking. It's going to save people some money in their wallet as well, and not popping as many pills.
Right. And actually feeling better.
Yes.
That's one of the things I always say to people. When was the last time you took a mineral supplement and actually felt the difference?
Yeah. So I think that's the big thing is like, no, it's one thing to take things on hope and faith, and it's another thing to actually have some kind of substance and proven ability there to actually see the substantial difference that you're making. And so yeah, so other than that, everyone, thank you again for joining me, and listeners out there, stay awesome, be limitless, and as always, go be the CEO of your health and life. Peace.